I am your friend. Yeah, I guess I'm a fan of y'all as well. Yeah, right, of course, duh. Cameron George, national ambassador here in the States for Ardbeg, and also a huge fan of Glenmorangie whiskey. So we're going to be using both whiskeys today in our episode. I'm incredibly excited about the episode today. I don't know if you can hear it, but I got the vibes going on in the background here. My favorite artist, the one and only, the Brooklyn billionaire, the cheddar checker himself, the one and only Jay-Z. Throw up the rock today for him. It's his 51st birthday. 51st birthday. So I am in full-on celebration mode. Jay-Z has meant the world to me, in terms of, somebody who taught me to see excellence in myself, to be able to want to chase after that excellence, to inspire me, to want to give back to my communities, and to want more out of my own life. For those reasons, he's one of the most incredible people in the world, and somebody that I take immense pride in celebrating. So Jay-Z, even though I know you're probably not gonna watch this episode because we're still too small time, if more of you would get out there and follow my YouTube page, we could get Jay-Z to watch this. It would go trending immediately. I will say we've gone up in followers, so that's been really great. So for all of our subscribers and whatnot on our YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you very much for supporting this episode and this show, which is a labor of love, something that I'm very happy to bring to each and every single one of you every week, Monday, Friday, 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 5:05 sometimes when we're running a little bit late because we've been messing around with the cheese foam all day. So I'm super excited to be able to make this cocktail because it features a really, really weird ingredient, which is cheese. Cheese. All right, so let's jump in. Let's go ahead and see who's following already on the live kind of, post that's going on my Facebook page. There we go. Perfect. All right. Awesome. So we got some followers already up and live. I'm super excited about this. All right. Jay-Z, Young Hova, one of my favorite artists in the world. This man is absolutely incredible. He is, one of the architects behind my entire style. This fresh fade that I got going on. This is the first episode that we've now done with the fade. Y'all were used to seeing me with these with the locks, but they had to come off this week. I needed to do it. I needed to change it up just a little bit. We had to get back to our old ways, so we took it down to the fade, a la Jay-Z style right here. So one of my absolute favorite Jay-Z lines is, in the song PSA off of my favorite album of all time, Jay-Z's The Black Album, when he was retiring. That didn't last for too long, right? He came back and better than ever. But The Black Album, one of my absolute favorite albums. He has a line on PSA where he says, essentially, ain't nobody do it better. I check cheddar like a food inspector, right? He's all about that cheddar, all about that money. To me, immediately, I was like, cheddar, that would be a really cool ingredient to work into a cocktail. I've never worked with cheese in a cocktail before. So I started to think about, all right, great, how can we incorporate a little bit of cheddar and a whole lot of style into this cocktail? So I started researching drinks that had cheese that were incorporated into them. And I stumbled across a Japanese tea service that's actually called cheese tea, right? And that's where you take, historically you take green tea, which is wonderful, has a lot of plant-based tannins to it as well, and you use green tea as the base, essentially, for what's going to be a wonderful concoction that is topped with a foam. Usually it's actually, I would define it more as a cream, because they use cream cheese and they use whipping cream as well. Today, our cheese foam is actually truly a foam. I used a little bit of a port infused cheddar, right? I'll hold that up here for you. You can see the coloration of it. Beautiful, beautiful coloration. We'll talk a little bit about how that is, pays homage to some of the whiskey that we're going to be using today. Glenmorangie Quinto Ruban, which is actually aged in port casks and has a coloration that's shockingly similar to this cheese. That's why I'm pretty stoked on that. Right. So this, Japanese tea service is, an emerging drink trend. So I was like, this is going to be weird. Let's go ahead and try this. We got to do it. And lo and behold, we came up with a really badass and really, really functional and easy cocktail for you all to make at home. The cheese foam is actually quite easy as well. Essentially, I took 3 ounces of this wonderful port-infused cheddar. And what I did is I actually, in a pot on a low heat, very, very low simmer, I actually melted that cheese down and then added a little bit of almond milk to it. I added about a quarter of a cup, a little over a quarter of a cup of almond milk to that, and whisked it to make sure that it all went into solution. And then I added egg white. I removed it from the heat, and then I allowed that to actually cool. Then I added egg white and a little bit of gelatin, to act as an emulsifier and as a binder. And then I put it into this whipped cream canister, an ISI, and I charged it twice, put it into the refrigerator, and, we were left with a cheese foam that's absolutely fantastic. God, that is so good. Right. So let's go ahead and try our food pairing today, which is actually just going to be very, very simple. We've got these garlic croutons, that we're going to dress with a little bit of this port wine infused cheese, this cheddar. All right, so let's go ahead and see how we did on the food pairing for the afternoon. Immediately, that garlic, this garlic has kind of been, smudged, I would say, the technical term, over the top of these croutons that I actually made at home as well. I know, turning into something like a chef here for Whisky Thru Food. I did this with a garlic and herb butter, that I did not make. I won't lie there, but I bought a garlic butter, and then I took some aging white French bread, sliced it very, very finely, and then essentially basted them with that melted garlic and herb butter. Awesome. Adam, what's going on? Russell. Oh, hello, Jordan. So good to see you. So good to see you. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. It's delicious. That port adds such a really cool ingredient and kind of a cool aspect to the entire experience. Not only do I get that sharpness of that cheddar, that is beautiful, very sharp, beautiful structure to it. There's a lot of salt, salinity that's kind of popping off on it as well. The garlic and the herbaceousness, the herbal characteristics really jump to the forefront. Let's go ahead and add just a little bit of the foam to the top of one of these and see how that does. I did add a little bit of Maldon sea salt to the foam as well. That's a nice little tasty little bite it's going to look like. That really, really well incorporated. Let's go ahead and try the cheese by itself paired to one of my absolute favorite whiskeys, one that we've all seen before here on Whisky Thru Food, Glenmorangie's Quinta Ruban. Absolutely fantastic dram. 14-year-old whiskey, age statemented 14-year-old, bottled at 46% alcohol by volume. Now we get again to talk about a whiskey that's non-chill filtered from Glenmorangie. Lots of body, lots of structure, lots of texture. These two things, the cheese and the whiskey, are going to have a beautiful interaction and engagement together. Because of the salinity in the cheese is going to really amplify a lot of the more floral characteristics from Glenmorangie. Obviously, Glenmorangie uses one of the most iconic water sources in the Scotch whiskey industry, the Tarlogie Springs. That spring water, incredibly mineral rich. That means that their fermentation is very, very active. You get a lot of white flour, a lot of almost like a green tea kind of aspect from their ferment at Glenmorangie as well. Lots of very beautiful, very volatile esters are going to be kind of jumping out of this glass, and I think that they're going to respond perfectly to this beautiful cheddar cheese. Right. Dan Crowell, the national ambassador of Glenmorangie, he does like Glenmorangie as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Dan. All right, so let's go ahead and see how we did. There's an oxidative note to the cheese as well, obviously. There's a fruity aspect to it as well. It's softened a little bit of sweet on the nose. There's a sweetness on the nose that doesn't necessarily translate through on the palate. It's very sharp on the palate, and I quite enjoy this. Oh, God. Oh, God. That is really good. I'm a huge fan of cheddar, both money like Jay-Z, cheddar, as Jay-Z calls it, and also the cheese itself. Perfect, perfect food pairing. Cheddar cheese is one of my absolute favorites. I think it makes for the best grilled cheese. I should have made a grilled cheese today out of this. That's what we should have done. Scratch it. We're reshooting the whole episode. We're done. No, I'm just kidding. But the grilled cheese is absolutely one of my favorite sandwiches. Not a huge fan of sandwiches. I would never eat at Subway again. I used to eat at Subway all the time. That's barely food, let alone a sandwich. Subway, yeah. But the cheese is the cheese that I generally like to use for my my grilled cheese sandwiches is usually a cheddar cheese. This would do something really cool. I think if I had paired this to like a rye bread, this would have done a really great job in a cheddar cheese, grilled cheese sandwich. Webb, what's up, Webb? Good to see you, my guy. That's delicious. Whiskey number 2 today is going to be Ardbeg Anno. It's like saying I know, but with a Scottish accent. Anno. The reason I wanted to pair 2 whiskeys to this today was because both of these whiskeys, I think, there's a communication that goes on that I can see, a line of communication that I can see that develops between the cheese and both of these whiskeys. From the fruitier aromatic qualities of the infusing of the port wine into the cheddar cheese, I see a little bit of what I like on the aromatic profile of Ardbeg Anno, which is, mulled wine, kind of darker, like dark fruits, a little bit of spices as well. I can see that same thread of communication going through the cheese all the way into Ardbeg Anno, and I can also see it stretching into Glenmorangie Quinta Ruban, which is obviously aged in port casks. For Ardbeg Anno, you've got a couple of different casks that are being utilized. Of course, you have first and second fill ex-bourbon barrel, heart and soul of Ardbeg, heart and soul really of the Scotch whiskey industry. About 85 to 90% of barrels that are utilized in Scotch whiskey at this point right now are still ex-bourbon casks because bourbon legally can only use their cask once, to create a bourbon whiskey. So then you're also going to have a little bit of virgin American oak. Which is where some of those spices start to develop. Again, both of these whiskeys are non-chill filtered, so there's a really great communication that happens there about texture as well. The texture of this cheese, sharp, but then there's a softness to the back palate of it. The initial impact, salt, brine, not necessarily the fruit, but then the staying power of this almost like lactic acid, almost lactic acids that are active on your palate. Just really beautiful. And of course, the last cask that's being used in Ardbeg Anno is going to be a little bit of sherry, Pedro Jimenez sherry cask. So that sherry casks are going to communicate that fruity aspect that we see represented in our delicious port-infused cheddar cheese. All right. Let's get into it. Let's try a little bit of the cheese by itself. A little bit of whiskey. That's damn good. These are both incredible pairings. I couldn't tell you which I like better. They're both absolutely fantastic. Damn it, I used it. I finally used the word fantastic. We were doing so well. Running joke from about 4 episodes again. My man Dilpreet, safe travels down to Texas to work down at the Roosevelt Room, one of my favorite bars down there. One of my absolute favorite people called me out a few weeks ago for using the word fantastic a little too much. You know what? I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss getting to hang out with you, and I'm gonna miss getting to raise glasses with you. But I'll see you down in Texas on my next trip down there. So cheers and slanjava. All right, let's talk cocktails. This cocktail pairing today is one for the ages. Let's make sure that we keep this nice and close by. Cocktail pairing today. Obviously, I told you a little bit in my social media post about why I selected a lot of these ingredients. I will tell you that Jay-Z is my absolute favorite artist in the world. My favorite lyric from Jay-Z is essentially in PSA, where he's talking about, how he checks cheddar like he's counting his bread so much that it's like he's a food inspector, right? I check cheddar like a food inspector. So that made me think about how I can incorporate cheese into a cocktail. So we're going to do that here for you today. This is a really delicious cocktail. The cheese foam, quite easy to make. Essentially, it was 2 ounces of this wonderful port wine infused cheese, heated with a little bit of almond milk over a very low heat until it actually melted and incorporated, whisking the entire time. A little bit of Maldon sea salt. I removed that from the heat, put it into the refrigerator to allow it to cool. That way that it wouldn't damage the eggs, which would be the emulsifier. So I used 2 egg whites to essentially 5 ounces of that total mixture from before that I had mentioned. And then I charged it twice in an ISI container. Pretty simple, but we have definitely jumped up a notch in terms of the at-home bar tools that will be needed. Please feel free, shoot me a DM and I can walk you through a little bit of the process. All right, let's make ourselves a cocktail. Let's do it. All right, so we're gonna start this delicious cocktail off with about 1.5 ounces. I'm not even gonna use a measuring device. I'm just gonna kind of wing it. It's Friday, so if I go a little hard, well, then fine, it's Friday, baby. All right, 1.5 ounces of Glenmorangie Quinta Ruban, and then about 1/2 ounce of Ardbeg NO. There we are, perfect. We're then gonna follow that up with 1 bar spoon of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Yeah, you can buy, pre-juiced lemons at the store and whatnot and concentrate and whatnot, but come on. We want to make cocktails with the best ingredients, so use the best whiskeys in the world. Use the best citrus that you could possibly get your hands on, which is fresh citrus. It's fresh. It's right there. It's at the store. You can buy it. You would have gone to the store anyway to buy citrus. Next ingredient is going to be a simple syrup. I've decided to amplify some of the citric elements by using Mother Pucker Elixir Fixer. Just a great name for a product. We're going to go ahead and use about 1/2 ounce. This is going to be a little bit of a longer cocktail. And then I'm going to go ahead and add 5 full ounces of iced tea. Perfect. There we go. So traditionally, Japanese cheese tea is served with green tea. Obviously, I have selected black tea here because Jay-Z is the personification of black excellence at the highest and most truest form. So I wanted to, again, pay homage to Jay-Z on his 51st birthday. Congratulations, Hova, the Bronx billionaire. We appreciate you for everything you've done. All right. Kendall, what's going on? Thank you for joining. And we'll go ahead and add some ice now. We've done shaken cocktails. We've done stirred cocktails, but we haven't done a thrown cocktail. So we're gonna throw this badass cocktail that we're making here today. And the reason that we're gonna do that is because we are really hoping to amplify some of the aeration of this cocktail. We want it to still have a nice kind of silken texture, but we want it to get a little bit of aeration at the same time. So the best way to do that is by throwing cocktails. It's close quarters back here, so I'm gonna have to back up just a little bit. Let's make sure that we don't spill this cocktail all over ourselves on YouTube Live. There we are. There we go, perfect. And there we go. All right, that'll do. Saw it started to get a little bit foamy there. That's kind of what we were looking for. In addition to a little bit of that dilution aspect, we were really hoping that we would just get a little bit of that foam. That way we're, kind of aerating the cocktail. We'll put that down into our glass. Perfect. Woo, that's a beautiful color. Nice kind of almost little golden hue to it. So now, the star of the show, we need the star ingredient, just a little bit of our foam. Perfect foam. Look how well that foam sets on top of it. And we'll even go ahead and garnish the cocktail itself with just a little bit of the cheese on the side. Beautiful, beautiful cocktail. Almost looks like a Pilsner style beer in the glass. That's just absolutely fantastic. I hadn't worked with a cheese foam before, but let's go ahead and see how we did here. On the nose, immediately, all of that cheese, those lipids, those oxidative notes, a little bit of that salt communicates and kind of comes through. That smells absolutely incredible. Let's go ahead and try the cocktail itself now as well. Oh, that's the weirdest cocktail that we've made here. Absolutely incredible. Again, you get all of the funk of the cheese up front and on the nose, but the actual cocktail itself, because we used a black like chai tea, essentially, you get all of these beautiful spices, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, of course, all of your winter spices as well. All of those. There's an acidity that comes through as well because of the Mother Pucker Elixir Fixer, our citrus simple syrup. And then, you've got all of that again, that funk, which rounds back out as I kind of lick my lips because I had all the foam all over my face here as well. That's just a really complex, super, super complex cocktail. I'm really proud of this one because it's weird. Whiskey Thru Food is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be energetic. We're supposed to make weird stuff like cheese foams to go on top of our cocktails. Who says that single malt Scotch cocktails aren't delicious and strange and avant-garde? Because I've got one right here for you that is really, really weird and super tasty. That's a badass drink. All right, let's go ahead and try. All right. God, that's a delicious drink. That's one of the best cocktails I think I've made in quite some time. All right, let's go ahead and see how we did on the food pairing. Let's see. Again, remember, Whiskey Thru Food, we want to make sure that our cocktails are still communicating the story of the ingredients that we're using as well, right? So we've got this garlic and herb buttered, dusted, essentially, crouton, as well as a port wine infused cheddar on top. We'll go ahead and, of course, kiss the entire thing with just a little bit of our cheddar foam. This cheddar foam is really, this is tasty. All right, cheers, Slanjava. It's funky, umami. There's an umami aspect to it. Full mouth, I apologize. That's just great. I think that, there are multiple flavor notes that you need to hit in well-composed cocktails. And umami is one that oftentimes is overlooked. And in this, I absolutely get it. It's coming through. It's really singing. The salt links it all back into the cocktail itself. Again, remember, heavily peated whiskeys, especially Islay peated whiskeys, because, seaweed is essentially part of, the genetic makeup of peat bogs. There's a salinity that comes through and is communicated on Islay whiskeys specifically. So that is kind of a link to the base of the cocktail. The Glenmorangie Quinto Ruban tells the story again of port wine. Port wine, has been used to infuse this cheese as well. One of my favorite colors of a whiskey is actually Glenmorangie Quinto Ruban. Great coloration when you use it and when you're working with it. You can see this almost like grapefruit kind of pink hue to the whiskey, which comes through and is communicated as well in the cheese, the cheddar. All right, let's get back into the cocktail. RC, what's going on? RC, is it as good as a mind eraser? You know me. You know me so well. You speak to me. You're speaking to my heart right here. The Mind Eraser will be making an appearance on an upcoming episode of Whiskey Thru Food. I love that. Great call out, my man. Cheers. All right, let's go ahead and try it again. It's funky. And then all of those wonderful spices that we can also pick out and kind of attribute to whiskeys that spend a little bit of their life in ex-bourbon casks. Again, remember, ex-bourbon is going to give you lots of things like active vanillins. It's going to give you lots of cinnamon It's going to give you like cinnamic acid as well, which is, you know, the compound that gives us the illusion of cinnamon on our palates. Eugenol as well, that clove, synthesized clove oil. You know, all of those things are present in chai tea. But they're also kind of linking immediately back into whiskey as well, because those can all be derived from, you know, Quercus alba, which is American white oak. Whiskey Thru Food. We teach, we have some fun, we make some jokes, we celebrate our heroes. Jay-Z, shout out 51st birthday again, right? All right, well, this has been a really badass pairing. I'm super stoked on this one. Fantastic cocktail. Since RC is actually driving Dilpreet down to Texas, I'll say it there for them so they can get their experience in. I really hope that you all enjoy these episodes. This one in particular, you know, really pulled at my heartstrings again. Jay-Z has meant so much to my life. You know, as somebody who's been inspirational to me, you know, as a young professional, to imbue me with a hunger that I think that everybody who wants, you know, elements of success should have. So. Here's to Jay-Z's success. Here's to all of our success and continued chasing after excellence, whatever that means to you. So, cheers, Slanjava, and until next time, I'm Cameron George, and this is Whiskey Thru Food. Check your cheddar like a food inspector. We're out. Cheers. Have a great weekend.